Good evening. As you see, my real name is Henri Verdoux, and for 30 years I was an honest bank clerk until the Depression of 1930, in which year I found myself unemployed. It was then I became occupied in liquidating members of the opposite sex. This I did as a strictly business enterprise, to support a home and family. But let me assure you that the career of a blue beard is by no means profitable. Only a person with undaunted optimism would embark on such a venture. Unfortunately, I did. What follows is history.
With Monsieur Verdoux, Charles Chaplin abandoned the costume of the tramp for good. He produced, wrote, directed, starred in, and composed the music for this, his seventh feature film, shot in 1946 and released in 1947.
When did you first see Monsieur Verdoux?
I
first saw Monsieur Verdoux the night it opened at the Gaumont Palace. What struck me in comparison to his earlier films was that it had nothing to do with the silent style anymore. Though when I see it now, I realize that's not quite true. But he found a form which was a kind of talkie, which wasn't quite yet the case, I think, with The Great Dictator, where he moved back and forth between dialogue scenes and silent scenes, whereas Verdoux was entirely conceived as a talking picture.
Orson Welles first came up with the idea for Monsieur Verdoux. 3 months after the release of Citizen Kane, Welles thought of making a film about the French wife murderer Henri-Désiré Landru and proposed the lead role to Chaplin, whose Great Dictator was then a great success. Chaplin saw in it the possible basis for a comedy of murders, which he would himself direct. In July 1941, he bought the story idea from Welles. Chaplin had long been fascinated by Landru, and he combined his character with that of the English aesthete and murderer Thomas Wainwright, about whom Oscar Wilde had written an essay. In the end, Verdoux trimming his roses was one of the few details he retained from the real-life Landru, who became the subject of a film by Claude Chabrol in 1962.
Landru wasn't a philosopher. Landru was a weirdo, and he was interesting as a weirdo. I mean, he was always evading the issue. Verdoux was a philosopher.
Monsieur Verdoux came a full 7 years after The Great Dictator. In the meantime, America had entered the war. Chaplin was in favor of an alliance with the Soviet Union and the opening of a second front, which would quickly brand him as a communist or communist sympathizer. He also met the woman of his life, Una O'Neill, whom he married at the age of 18. But the press and the FBI hounded Chaplin when a paternity suit was filed against him. Here was an opportunity to make him pay for his leftist sympathies. He was acquitted by the courts, but not by public opinion. That year, the bomb was dropped on Hiroshima. Monsieur Verdoux would serve as a mirror to those troubled times in which the best-loved man in the world became a public enemy.
Never, never in the history of jurisprudence have such terrifying deeds been brought to light. Gentlemen of the jury, you have before you a cruel and cynical monster. Look at him.